If there is a man that you cannot stop thinking about, I want you to consider something that might initially annoy you. You might not actually like him as much as you think you do. You might be responding to what happens inside you when you don't know where you stand with him. And those two experiences can feel almost identical. This is why one woman can meet a man who is consistent, interested, and emotionally available and somehow feel nothing dramatic. And therefore, another man gives her incredible date, disappears for 2 days, comes back intentionally, pulls back away again, watches every single story she posts, sends something just initiate enough to reopen the door, and suddenly she cannot get him out of her head. And she calls it chemistry. She calls it attention, connection. And she says, there is just something about him. Maybe, and maybe not. Maybe there is something happening inside you that nobody ever taught you how to decode. Because the amount of mental space the man occupies is not necessarily evidence of his freaking value. And by the end of this video, I want you to be able to answer one most important question that can completely change the way you actually date. Do I actually want this man, or I am responding to the circumstances that he creates in me, the uncertainty in me? Because once you can tell the difference, dating becomes so much less confusing. It becomes easy, playful, and enjoyable. And stay until the end, because I'm going to show you the mistake women often make after they finally recognize an inconsistent man. And this is the part that nobody talks about, and it's exactly how women end up back in the same situation, just with a different face and name. The biggest question is why the men who give you less can occupy more inside your head. Imagine two men. The first one really likes you. He asks you out. He follows through. After the date, you hear from him immediately. There is so much attention, affection. And you don't have to screenshot his messages and send them to your girlfriend for a super deep analysis. There is very little mystery. And then there is a second man. The date is incredible. Maybe he says something that makes you think, this is very different. You go home, and guess what? You are flying. You are feeling high. Like, oh my God, what did he do to me? And then the most important part. Then nothing happens. 1 day is gone, maybe 2. Maybe now already Wednesday came. And maybe it's even Friday. Something interesting happens. You don't simply think about this man. You start solving his actions and ask yourself, was I too interested? Have I done anything wrong? Has anything happened? Maybe he's busy. Yeah. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's got this unsolved childhood trauma that he's been hurt before, and maybe it's my chance to finally be with this incredible man and help him. Maybe he likes me so much that he even pulled away because of it. And my personal favorite, listen, maybe he's just not a big of a texter. Sandra, we all freaking been there, and some of you still are. The man has somehow managed to operate from a smartphone for the last 15 years. Eventually, your phone lights up. And guess what? It's him. And look at what happens. Look at your face. What has this situation do to you? You are feeling excitement, relief. Your shoulders drop. You're like, this energy, so nice. He cares. I was overthinking completely because he actually cares so much about me. Suddenly, the whole entire story changes. You knew there was something there. You knew you were not imagining anything. Maybe he asked to see you. Maybe he becomes a little more affectionate again. And maybe you meet again and you have another amazing night, time together. And then it's the least thing that you want, but it happens to you again, Sandra. Because it happens to all of us. He disappears again. Ask yourself something. What actually are you becoming attached to? To the man or to the cycle, trying to solve his character? Because psychologically, unpredictability can make something incredibly attention-grabbing. It can hook you up. When an outcome is uncertain, your brain has a reason to keep checking in, keep trying to solve, because it's an open loop that you want to close. And think about how little mental energy you spend wondering whether your kitchen light will turn on. You press the switch and it turns on. Done. You have nothing to solve. You have nothing to think about. Now, imagine sometimes it turns on immediately, and sometimes after 20 presses, you even start pushing. And sometimes 3 days later, occasionally, it sends you, "I'm thinking about you," text at 11:47 p.m. Suddenly, you have a relationship with the kitchen light. That sounds completely ridiculous. I know, because I just made it up. Yet, psychologically, uncertainty is extremely good at capturing attention. It's gonna create such a mystery in your mind that you will be like, "I don't know what's going on. I cannot wait, but I need to find out." And this is where women can make a dangerous interpretation, because there is a huge gap between they start fill in with their imagination, and our imagination, oh my goodness, we can create anything. Almost like, if I think about him constantly, therefore I must really like him. Not necessarily. Sometimes you think about him constantly because your brain is waiting for resolution. You want to close. You want to close the open loop. And attention is not the same thing as compatibility. Just because he showed you attention, it doesn't equal marriage. And this distinction changed the way I understand attraction. Because your internal response tells you something about your own experience. It does not automatically tell you something about his suitability. Listen to this again, mentally. Like really hear that, because women very often use the intensity over their feelings as evidence about the quality of a man. Like, "I've never felt like this. It's so intense when I'm with him, so I must really like him. I can't stop thinking about him. I can't concentrate on my studying. I can't think about work. I can't even talk to my child. I just wanna really respond to him. I just really wanna this high feeling. The way I feel something with him, I don't feel with anyone else." And all of those statements might be completely true, yet none of them answer the question you wanna find out the answer to. What is he actually showing you? Is he consistent? Does he follow through? Is he action material? Is he a provider? Does his word match his action? Does he make space for you? Does he communicate with you properly? Does he actually have a capacity for the relationship you want, not the situationship he might create it possible between you two? Just not to rush things, blah, blah, blah. And those questions are much less intoxicating, but much more useful, because attraction answers, "How do I feel around him?" Where compatibility asks, "What kind of life would his patterns create for me, for us together?" And those are not the same questions, therefore cannot be answered in the same way. Because women often start decoding themselves, like what is wrong with me, instead of decoding him and what psychology tells behind his behavior. And this is where things get even more interesting. When his behavior becomes confusing, whose behavior do women often start analyzing? Themselves, but not the man's. Maybe I should have said that. Maybe I was too available. Maybe I smiled too much. Maybe my voice sounded stupid. Maybe this, maybe that. Just maybe I talk too much. Maybe I shouldn't have slept with him. Maybe he saw my kid and now I exposed it too fast. Maybe I talked about this too much, too fast and too soon. And maybe I shouldn't have asked what I wanted. Maybe I intimidated him. Maybe I was too independent. Maybe I wasn't feminine enough. Maybe, oh my goodness, maybe 100 maybes. And suddenly Pedro, the guy who's inconsistent, has contributed approximately 3 vague text messages to this relationship, while Sandra is conducting a complete psychological audit on herself. Why? You ask why? Because self-blame gives you something incredibly seductive: the illusion of control. If I cannot control him and his actions, so I will control myself, because if I just do more, then he will be more affectionate to me. My behavior caused his behavior. Perhaps I can change something about my behavior and I can get a different outcome from his. I'll tell you what you don't want to hear, but I gotta be honest with you. Maybe this simply is his level of availability. Maybe this is his communication style. Maybe he enjoys access to you more than he actually would want to deliver through responsibility shared with you. And maybe you don't need another strategy. Maybe you need to believe what you are actually facing and seeing from his actions as a matter of the fact. And that is uncomfortable because it's gonna remove the project you have been working on. It's gonna take off your job. And you cannot optimize another adult into becoming a partner you need. So stop listening to only what he says. And this is one of the most easiest places to get lost. Because people communicate in 2 different languages. It's what they say, and then it's what they repeatedly do. And words are important, but what's more important? The context and the action behind the context. Because everybody can leave you feeling lost, but what is it that they do after they leave you feeling like that? Do they follow through? Do they communicate? After poorly communication, do they come back to you and show you through action that they care about you? Because everyone can have a bad week. One delayed reply does not mean that this guy have become a criminal and we have to open investigation. We are actually looking for patterns, because patterns are where the information lives. If a man tells you he really likes you, what does liking you look like in behavior? Is he does what he said he's gonna do? Is he being serious? Does his behavior move towards seriousness? Like, what pattern are you decoding? If he says he wants to see you, does he actually create a plan, or did those wishes stay inside the communication, like the texting? Because ChatGPT can do that for you. Or if he says, I'm just really busy, does he eventually create space when the business is over? If he says he doesn't want to lose you, what changes after he actually says it? What pattern are you noticing next? And this is where dating becomes much simpler, when you stop trying to determine whether every individual explanation is technically possible. Of course it's possible. He could be busy. He could have childhood trauma. He could have been overwhelmed. He could have really forgotten. And he could be scared as well. And he could also have an avoidant attachment style. All of the above, even at the same time in one person. It doesn't make him a bad guy. And he even could have panicked by the attraction he has to you. Yeah, the question isn't whether an explanation can exist. The question becomes, what does he repeatedly do? What does his repeated behavior tell you? Because you are not choosing his explanation. You cannot even make love with his explanation. You cannot get affection from his explanation, because you are choosing the experience his behavior will produce for you. So understanding him can actually keep you stuck. And this one might even hurt a little, because especially if you're naturally empathetic, understanding, somebody is really having a bad season and you are so understanding, and it's a most beautiful quality of yours. But Understanding can become dangerous when you use it to repeatedly negotiate against your own standards. You understand why he struggles to communicate. You understand why his previous relationship has hurt him. And you definitely understand why he is stressed. You understand his childhood trauma. You understand why he doesn't talk to his mom. You understand why commitment will scare him. You understand all of it. You also understand why his career is demanding, and eventually you understand this man so much that there is only one person left in a relationship that nobody seems to understand. And that person is you, because you don't understand yourself. He doesn't understand you. And understanding why somebody behaves a certain way does not obligate you to build a life around that behavior. And that sentence can save you months and years and hours of your amazing life. And maybe he has a genuinely strong reason. And you can save that compassion for yourself. And you can have compassion for a reason. But still decide that outcome does not work for you because it does not match your level of interest you need in the relationship. And that is not being you a bad woman in the story. That is discernment. And here is the test I want you to use. Remember the question from the very beginning. Do I actually want this man, or am I responding to his behavior, the uncertainty, the butterflies that I may sense? Here's how I want you to test this specifically. Temporary, remove the chemistry from the evaluation. I know, it's terrifying. Trust me, you will survive. If I did that, if I tested this and I know it works, I know it's gonna work for you. Imagine that this exact behavior was coming from a man you felt completely nothing about. Same messages, same disappearing, maybe some same affection in the beginning. Then after, same excuses, same level of planning, same inconsistency, and the same effort, same emotional availability. Would you consider his behavior impressive? Would you advise your closest friend to continue investigating? Would you recommend this behavior and a man to your daughter, to your sister? Would you call this relationship material? Or does the behavior only become acceptable once you add your attraction to him? That is your information. Because attraction will cloud your judgment. Because chemistry should not be used to turn behavior you dislike into behavior you become tolerant to. And now we get to the mistake I promised you. Let's say you finally recognize the pattern. You realize, okay, this is not working for me. This man is inconsistent. I don't like it. I don't even feel those many butterflies. But now what? This is where women sometimes make the next mistake. Because listen, here's what's gonna happen next. They try to teach him how to pass the test. Oh my God. Like the worst thing. They explain him exactly what they need. They remind him, they coach him, they create, like they almost put a pillow underneath this tough guy head, so just so that he understands how to treat her. They repeatedly tell him how they want to be held, seen, and everything that comes with that. And then he might even improve temporarily, and she thinks, oh my God, he's amazing. He really listened. I must do it again. This works so well. And then guess what? Now you have another problem, because you don't know whether you discovered his natural capacity or you trained him to produce the correct answer in a time being. So you have a temporary resolution. And there is enormous difference between communicating your needs in a healthy relationship and repeatedly coaching somebody into a basic compatibility. That is such a dangerous thin line in between. You are dating to observe, not to raise your boyfriend to be a good fit for you. Because your job is not to turn Pedro into the correct answer. Your job is to gather enough information to decide whether the Pedro has the answer for you. is he your actual answer? And that completely changes everything, because suddenly you stop asking, how do I get him to choose me? What am I supposed to do? What have I done? And you flip the script. You start asking, what is his behavior telling me? And do I choose this? Do I even want this? And that is where your power comes right back to your hands. And not because you became cold, little bitchy, or anything in between. And not because you stopped caring. You are the same caring, empathetic, loving, deeply loving person. But not every man who makes some effort deserves immediate access to that. And not every man who makes one mistake gets immediate detachment from you. But you simply stop allowing attraction to erase the information you are receiving about this man. This is why, because I suffered myself from these things, like the scenarios I talk about, it's what I personally experienced. That's why I created Decode Him guide, because I realized how much unnecessary confusion exists in dating when women don't know what they actually looking at. A man does something, you feel something, and then you interpret your emotional response as information about him, not the information that his action made you logically see. And then suddenly you are 3 months into trying to understand a situation that was giving you the information from the very beginning. I wanted to create something that helps women to separate those things, his behavior and your emotional response to his behavior, and even understand the psychology behind, so you stop guessing yourself, and the story you create to connect the two, to fill the gaps of your imagination. Because the psychology explains, so you don't have to. And this is where so much dating confusion lives. That's why Decode Him exists. Not to teach you how to manipulate men, make them obsessive of you, because if you make a wrong man obsessive of you, now you have another problem to solve. Not to make you suspicious of every man you meet. And definitely not to turn dating into some exhausting psychological game so that you can play, and you can play well. The opposite. You decode him to marry for love, so you stop wasting your time on the wrong man, and you decode his behavior, so you clear unnecessary man, so that you get to actually build relationship with a man you actually want. But while the wrong man will be in your presence, you will block that energetically, emotionally, mentally. You will be so occupied with solving this project that you will not create space for a man who you could build the best life